Hello, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can you hear me in yours?
Yes.
Perfect. Yep. I've just got him, which is fine. I've got that. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I can deal with that.
No, that's fine. So I guess everything is done. You can happily go away.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Back at about 22.
Yep, perfect.
Cool.
Just give it. Yeah, like I say, just come in and then shut the door, and I'll know to stop, and then we'll restart it.
All right, no worries.
Great, thank you. Okay, wow. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Luton's Deadpool podcast with me, Luton's Deadpool, and my special guest today, Finn Kennedy.
Hello.
How you doing, Finn?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm excited.
Oh, mate, thank you so much.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, Pantango, the new home of Luton's Deadpool podcast.
Awesome.
I have held one upstairs here, and it was good. You know, the person I had come on, he's from Step Up Coaching. Lovely man called Nathan. He's doing a men's mental health group, and we had a chat upstairs. It was really nice, but it is so much better to be on like cool equipment with the headphones.
Yeah.
This feels legit.
They go with your outfit, actually.
The
black headphones. Yeah, it looks like the accessory. You're missing the swords today. You had the swords when I last saw you.
I know. Well, I've got to say, like, you know, when it comes to when I'm out and about, obviously I like to have the full get up on because that's what people want. I don't know why. When I've not got the swords or the guns, it's like I'm
makes
naked.
It uncomfortable to sit down.
It is exactly. So the belt, you know, I can let my belly
all
hang out. All
superheroes have got to be practical as well.
Yeah. So enough about me, anyways. So you're here today to talk about what you've been doing with your project in Berry Park.
Yeah.
So it's the Museum of Stories. Would you like to tell people a little bit about it?
Museum of Stories. I haven't got a flyer actually, but I would hold up a flyer at this point.
Oh, hold on. We've got one right here. Here you go.
You might have seen these circulating in the Berry Park area and hopefully beyond. So Museum of Stories Berry Park is a free community audio walk in an app which geolocates you. So it's essentially an audio drama project. There's sort of 12 mini radio plays between sort of 5 and 10 minutes long, pinned to a map of Dunstable Road with icons, and in the app when you open your map then they pop up and you can see yourself in relation to each one. And then the idea is you go to that place and you sit on a bench or in a shop or cafe and listen, because the story took place in that location or has a link to that location in some way. So it's like a place-based audio project, and all the stories were sourced by putting an open call through opening a phone line and circulating flyers locally and advertising on local radio for anyone to call up and leave a story about anything related to Berry Park. And we got the most incredible submissions, and ended up recruiting all the people who contributed to a community steering group, who then took part in deciding all sorts of decisions about the project. But most importantly as well, a lot of them became the community cast, because we asked the story contributors to voice their own stories. And then we augmented that with a call out. We had Arts Council funding and support from Luton Arts and Luton Borough Council's Heritage Department. So we were able to put a paid call out for paid community cast members to come and augment whatever parts we didn't have covered with the others. And all of this was supported by professionals. So the scripts were professionally written. The cast were not professional, but they had a professional director in the room to support their performances. And obviously all the editing and everything, it sounds really polished. So for me, it's about kind of getting rid of the barriers between sort of artist and community. I've always been an artist who works in communities, but that seems to have become its own sort of category, and I don't really agree with that. I think communities and art are sort of the same.
No, I agree.
And can't exist without each other. So this is really a bit of a first, in that it brings together a lot of things that I've been interested in for a long time. So I started in theatre as a playwright originally, and ended up doing loads of work in schools and writing with young people, especially in London's East End. And that really shaped the kind of artist I became, I suppose. And then as I sort of evolved into a producer, I got more interested in the tech side, because I've written for Radio 4 as well as theatre plays. So and audio would always sort of vie for my affections a little bit. I was always there's so much more freedom to it, really, because theatre's very physical, and a scene changes is kind of disruptive, but audio is so light on its feet, and it can just skip through time and space. You can go back to the 1800s, you can go in and out of characters' heads. It's a really sort of magical art form. And I've wanted to take that out into the world, because and do it with real people's voices. That's the thing. The other thing about radio drama, which is different to audio drama, by the way, radio drama is on the radio.
Yeah, of course.
Which means it's
like the Archers.
Yeah, which is what everyone thinks of, which gets it a really bad reputation because most of it's awful. I'm not hesitant saying I absolutely hate the Archers. I think that the worst thing to happen to audio drama, but lots of people love them, so don't write in. But the reputation that it has because of that is that it's sort of about these rather stilted voices and these quite posh voices, and actually I'm interested in real lived voices, real people's accents, because they're so rooted in place. And they're often better than any actor, really. I mean, you can really hear not just obviously where someone's from, but kind of like their life experiences through the sound of their voice. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I felt that. I mean, I was fortunate enough, you invited me onto the press preview, which I got very giddy about when I got that message. Because obviously I've been doing this for a while now, and I get people approach me about stuff quite a bit to say, can you help me with this, or can you come along to this? But when you approached me with this, it was like, a press preview? Me? A press preview? I got really weird about it.
As an outsider to Luton, you're a local celebrity. Did you not know that? Okay.
I don't like it when people keep saying this.
Well, it comes with the territory, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not anything that I've set out to do, but it is like one of the benefits to what I do is that I get great people like you who are really interesting, who approach me with something fascinating like this and say, do you want to have a look? And I'm the kind of guy that my partner hates me for this, but I just say yes to absolutely everything. And
well, I sort of knew it'd be up your street as well, because it's done in a real spirit of celebration. I knew what you were all about. And Shemiza, in fact, my co-producer on this,
big up
Shemiza, tipped me off about you long ago and was like, if we can get Deadpool there, so here we are. I'm really pleased that it's happened. And I knew that it would appeal to you because of that spirit of trying to push back against the bad news stories about Luton and actually do something that celebrates what's actually a really amazing street. I've really Dunstable Road. I've said this a few times, but I'm just amazed that there's no chain stores on it still. In this day and age, that's a real rarity. And in story terms, that means that it's probably a family business or a community business. Like, there's a story behind each building or business, even if it's changed hands, because they're still independent. And that's just really promising for students to do something like this, an audio walk like this. And also, it's just so blimmin' diverse. You just walk in meters and it's the world, is at your feet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I got to. So I've grown up in Luton. This is my hometown. Born here. My earliest memory was I think the first house was on Stockingstone Road, but then we moved to the Bride Inns, which is in the heart of Bury Park. I mean,
right.
I went to school at Norton Road, which wasn't too far away from there, and I just remember every morning going to school and just being filled with this vibrancy and colour. Oh, hello. Ruining my sound. Don't worry, it's too late now, it's too late. Don't worry about it, it's cool. Anyway,
your school.
So I would get up in the morning to go to school, and my mum would take me out onto Dunstable Road, and just walking past the shops and smelling the incense and just all the fresh fruit and veg, and just there being so many different types of people, and I've heard so many different accents that being exposed to that at a young age, it really showed me how big the world is in a way, because I mean, when you grow up in a place, I moved from there to Stopsley, which is quite a white sort of area, and the difference between me and my classmates who grew up in Stopsley was tremendous in our worldviews. I saw Luton as being kind of a gateway to another world, whereas they saw it as a gated community.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
wow.
It's quite interesting when you have an experience like that growing up. But for me, Bury Park has always been right at the centre of Luton. It's a heartbeat of the place. I mean, you've got the football stadium there. You've got all the shops, like you said. Such a diverse community there as well. And everybody there is just so up for doing stuff for the community.
Yeah.
Pamtango.com. Yeah, so it's one of them places where that you can really feel the spirit of the place just by taking a little stroll through it.
I felt so welcomed there, actually, and because this was a bit of an experimental project, it's like I hope there'll be loads more museums of stories, but Luton's got the first one, and so we were kind of really testing the waters as we went along. So I'll tell you one of my main sort of love letter to Dunstable Road and Bury Park is Alexandra Opticians, Dr. Alvey, who you met at the press launch. So I happened to be in Bury Park on a Saturday because 2 years ago we got a little seed commission from Revolution Arts to test the idea out and make one little play. And in that play there was a scene set on a match day, and you can't really sort of fake the match crowd, so I had to go and record it with my mobile kit. And it was for a little play set in what was then Alders Opticians. It's the oldest business in Bury Park. And I was passing, and I just popped in because they were open. I thought I'll just pop in and tell them what we're up to, and they could not. Dr. Alvey just kind of came shooting out and like shook me by the hand and took me into the back consulting room. He could not have been more enthusiastic and excited, and he really sort of saw himself as a custodian of the history of that business, even though it's called, it's a different business now, but it's still an opticians. Yeah. So in this back room there's like pictures of Alders through the ages, different decades. There's like old ophthalmic equipment, obsolete stuff. There's this big Victorian bookshelf, and he was sort of very proudly showing me around, and I was, and he was welcoming enough to and brilliantly sociable enough to open the shop late on some days or on a Sunday to have like a gathered listening event for the first audio play that we made, which was Seeing Clearly, actually, which was now at the top of the street and on the benches outside Coffee Pot. Sandra Glenn's story about getting glasses in Alders. Yeah, it was really sweet. And so this is what I mean about Bury Park. It's like I just tried my luck on a Saturday, just going, hey guys, we're up to this, I thought you should know. And before you know it, I've got like a rock solid partner on the project and a sort of physical present base on the street. And so it's 88 Dunstable Road, so that's where the walking tour starts. Yeah. So can I plug our Eventbrite dates next week? So we're doing timed Eventbrite walks every day from next Monday 11th of September through to Saturday 16th at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. each day. Tickets are free. There's an Eventbrite. If you go to museumofstories.co.uk, the app is also already in app stores as of yesterday, so those links are on museumofstories.co.uk. But if you want to do the walk in a group with friends, which it sort of suits, even though it's a sort of solo listening experience, they're all sort of 5 to 10 minutes. You can walk around or even look at the map and decide which ones you might go and listen to together. You can imagine it working with mates. So we're doing those every day, and it's to coincide with Heritage Open Days Week, which Luton Council's Heritage Department run in Luton every year, which I'm going to a launch actually tonight at the Hat Factory of Curating Luton, which is all the heritage projects that they've supported this year. So check out museumofstories.co.uk because there's still loads of Eventbrite tickets, and we want everyone to really come and enjoy this and tell their mates.
Yeah, I can't big this up enough, seriously. I was lucky enough to go on the tour, and I really took my time with it. It was very hot that day.
Yeah.
It was very hot that day.
Yeah, right.
But do you know, I said to myself at first, I was like, okay, I'm going to sit on the opposite side. I'm going to listen to the first one and just kind of get a feel for what it's like. See, maybe go do a couple more, and then I'll go home and I'll come back another day.
Right.
That was the original plan.
Okay.
And I finished the entire thing in about.
I noticed. I was amazed.
Hour and a half. I think
it's intended to be about 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's about hour and a half, hour and 45 sort of time. But I just couldn't stop. It was enthralling.
That's such a brilliant thing to hear. Thank you.
Honestly, the first one, I was kind of a bit confused because I didn't really know. I was like, it's talking about this particular story, but then what I didn't realise is how it would link in as I would walk along, and then it that's what I really enjoyed about it, was that there's some stories that are separate, but then there's some links between a couple as well.
That's right. It's sort of, we call it rewarding the committed listener. Yeah. So the more you do, the more you'll discover those little Easter eggs, they call them in gaming, don't they?
Yeah, and honestly, I by the time I think I'd done the tour exactly how it should be. I started at number 88, and I walked up Dunstable Road, past the Coffee Pot, came back around, and then came down and finished the tour. And it was honestly just absolutely brilliant, especially the ghost story. I mean, I've spoken a little bit about it online. I really don't want to give anything away to people because when I came back to the opticians and I asked, "Is this the place?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah." I ran out of there as fast as I could.
That was, oh my God, I laughed so hard when you told me that on the phone, because, you know, you're a blooming superhero, man.
Mate,
WTF.
I can't fight ghosts. I'm not a Ghostbuster out here.
Well, she's a very sweet little girl ghost. She's not a scary
Oh,
ghost.
yeah, you said this, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me.
Do you know
because
what?
it
You're
goes
not
to the
alone. You're
ghost.
so not alone. Like, my co-producer, Shemiza, feels exactly the same. It
Yeah.
took me ages to get her to even set foot in Alexandra Opticians. And that back consulting room, she's just, like, out of there in seconds. It was... I've never seen anything like it. And there's a few other people like that as well. Titi Dowdu, who's the third writer in the team, she wasn't crazy about going into that back room either. So yeah, it takes all sorts. But I love a ghost story, I always have. And what I particularly love about that one is, well, A, that it's like real, and this is the guys who you happen to. When do you sort of get that close to one? But also, one of the people we ended up working with quite a lot was a lady called Jackie Gunn, who I'm calling our resident historian.
Yeah.
Who sort of researches Berry Park history pretty much full time, it seems, and has donated loads of time to this project, and has been a real stalwart supporter, and is sort of the voice of the app in many ways. She's the first message that you hear, and then she narrates a further 2 stories. But she started researching who lived at 88 Dunstable Road at the turn of last century, and found that a little girl did live there, and started researching what happened to her. And it's not what you think. She didn't die there. I'm not going to say any more than that, but one of the other stories in the one that you're talking about, which goes with the opticians telling the ghost story, is this historical story from Jackie about who we think it could have been.
Do you know what? That's what done it, was because I listened to that one first. And it doesn't say anything about that. And then you do the tour, and then when I came back to the very end, and now I've listened to the Alders Opticians one. Yeah. Oh, I felt it. I can feel it now. It was horrible. It was a horrible sensation to know that I was just stood in that place, and I will struggle to go back.
Oh my gosh! Wow, I've been dying to see her. I've been like, we even went and recorded Dr. Alvi and Muslima, his colleague who voiced that piece. We recorded their parts in that exact haunted consulting room. I clipped my mics like this on the table, and I was just dying to see or hear something, and I didn't.
What is wrong with you?
I'm just fascinated by it. I mean, it might scare the life out of me if it happens, who knows, but I just would love it to.
Yeah, so you're the type of person that when you hear creaks upstairs, you go straight up looking.
I've got a vivid imagination, that's why I'm a writer.
Well, you're a brilliant one, I have to say.
Oh, bless you, thank you.
I mean, pre doing this, let's find out a little bit more about you. So, where are you from originally?
So I was born in Brighton, but left there when I was about 7 and moved about a lot as a kid. And I spent most of the time in London, and particularly as an adult. But I don't have a hometown. Like, I'm a bit jealous of places like Luton where people stay very attached to them, because I left Brighton long enough ago to not have any mates there, and I'm always a bit jealous of people who have like all their mates are in the pub on Christmas Eve. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've never really had that, but so home's where you make it, and I suppose it's sort of been London, although in the last 10-12 years St Albans, which is quite near Luton, so I've been coming to Luton a little bit, bring my kids to the Hat Factory sometimes. But I started out, I set my sights on playwriting really young. I really was one of those weird kids that sort of knew what I wanted to do from really young. And I was young enough to sort of like live on next to nothing and, write plays on the dole and stuff. Yeah. And anyway, I ended up raising some money to do a master's degree in playwriting at Goldsmiths, which was like a full-time year to learn my craft. And then the play that I wrote for that course was picked up and produced by Soho Theatre not long after, which was my first professional production. And that sort of started a very there's no straight paths in careers like that, and the very tiny minority of writers, do really well out of it, and the rest of you, you're quite jobbing. And that's sort of normal, and actually to how I would want it, because I was always want to do something else in the world alongside writing, because otherwise you can get a bit like in your ivory tower, do you know what I mean? You're cut off from the world. So I had a play, my second play which I wrote, this is a story, was rejected by every theatre in London, and at the time that completely blew a hole in my finances, because I'm not from money, and so I went off and had to give up playwriting. I went off and did a PGCE, so I started training as a teacher to teach A-level drama in North London College. not very well, it has to be said. I love teaching playwriting, but teaching drama is like a different kettle of fish. But anyway, it was in the middle of doing that, I was about to get kicked off a course actually. The Arts Council rang me up and told me that my play that had been rejected by everywhere had won this big award they used to run called the John Whiting Award, I'd submitted it myself. I was so broke that I hand-delivered it because I couldn't afford the stamps.
No way.
Anyway, it won this award worth like £6,000. But then I was in this weird position of having this award-winning play, and which had already been rejected by everywhere, and no London theatres were going to turn around and go, "Oh, it was quite good. Really, we were wrong." Anyway, it was. I kind of couldn't shift it for a while, but it ended up at Sheffield Crucible when Sam West, the actor, used to run it, and it had a really beautiful production directed by Ellie Jones, there's a Museum of Stories link here because she was the director I brought in to support the community cast here. Ellie did a beautiful job on the world premiere of my play. It's called How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found, about a guy who changes his identity. Anyway,
very relevant to me in many respects.
I'll send you a copy.
Please
There's
do.
lots of tips in there for how to get fake ID and other stuff like that.
I'm in.
So anyway, I suppose I'm telling you all this because the reason I was like 26 or something when all this was going on, and it was like a really formative lesson in you can't rely on the theatre industry for a career, and that's not unusual. That's just like most artists, and also, nobody knows anything, like they say in Hollywood. Just because your play gets rejected by everywhere doesn't mean it's no good. This play went on to be produced around the world, basically Australia and America, New Zealand, Canada, most of the English-speaking world, and it's sort of constantly at Edinburgh Fringe. It's really popular with students, and there's loads of fringe productions all year round. And this, so anyway, but it's sort of. I've vindicated myself in that it was a good play, but the effects that it had on me as an artist was that I had to look outside of the theatre industry to make a living, and was always interested in working with young people because I kind of came up through youth theatre, and that's how I got interested in theatre in the first place. And so I ended up doing quite a lot of stuff for Half Moon Young People's Theatre in the East End, and they would send me into East London schools, and it was through them that I met one school in particular, Mulberry School for Girls on Commercial Road in Tower Hamlets, which is quite well known now. It's where Michelle Obama went on her last visit to the UK, and it's when she was surrounded by all these purple headscarves. That's the Mulberry girls' uniform. Anyway, they're a brilliant school who do loads of amazing arts collaborations with professional artists and companies. Anyway, I was lucky enough to be asked if I wanted to become their writer-in-residence. This was going back quite a long time when there was more funding around for that kind of thing. They're a normal state school, and they're about 90% Bangladeshi Muslim girls, just due to the catchment area. It's not selective. So I ended up finding myself as a basically white middle-class guy as the writer-in-residence in this Muslim female-majority school, and I was doing lots of teaching and lots of kind of curriculum support in English and drama, but also sort of designing sessions, like say the English department wanted something on Shakespeare or writing monologues or something, I could do sessions on that. But the main thing I did, or the highest profile thing I did every year, was write a new play or co-create a new play with the students through an after-school club, which the school paid to go to the Edinburgh Fringe every year, which we did for 4 years running. And in 2009 we got a Fringe First Award off the Scotsman, which is like the big award in Edinburgh everyone goes for, and then all the plays were published. So I've got 2 volumes of plays in the shops now from that time in my career, which were all kind of co-created with Bangladeshi girls in East London, and some others as well. So I've written probably as many or more plays for teenagers than kind of plays for adults. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, and that I teach workshops in now. I train other writers. I ran a theatre company for a while, and through that trained a lot of other writers in how to teach playwriting, basically, which is different to drama, and also how to co-create stuff with communities, which is basically the sort of approach and experience that's exactly behind this project. I got confident enough and good enough at knowing how to do that, and how to hold a room and make people feel safe and valued, and and manage conflict where it arises, although there's remarkably little in these kinds of projects. But also how to make sure that the output had a professional polish. Like, it's really important to me that community and young people's work isn't seen as different to what's on the main stage. It's just as good.
Yeah, it should be.
It should be in the program. It should be on at 7:30 p.m. And anyway. I spent a long time in the theatre industry, and there's a whole sort of, there's a whole bunch of companies in theatre who live and breathe that philosophy. It's not all kind of big stuffy venues. But anyway, I sort of did my time in theatre, and towards the end of it, I started getting much more interested in audio, because alongside it, I was writing plays for Radio 4, so I got to know how to do it quite well. But one of the projects I did in my last job, which was artistic director of a touring theatre company, which was based at the top of Brick Lane in East London. We partnered with a Bangladeshi-led theatre company of alumni, actually based out of Mulberry School, led by a former student, and we did an audio walking tour of Brick Lane. And it wasn't exactly like Museum of Stories, because we didn't set up a phone line which people could call, but that's because we had a group of like Bengali mums basically who were kind of, lived and breathed that area and told us their tales, and so we made it with them. And that was a really interesting experience, and I suppose it's where the seeds of this walking tour were sown, but it also was where the seeds of my current venture, which is a new company I've called Applied Stories, which is place-based audio drama with social impact. So it's walking tours like this, but it's also doing audio drama to commission for communities outside of broadcast. So I work a lot with the National Archives, for example, down in Kew, who've got a brilliant outreach department. And the National Archives is like all the government's records going back to the Doomsday Book, all the declassified government records anyway. Yeah. And anyone can go and browse any of it. And it's all loads of stuff about the British Empire and loads of fascinating histories that like hardly anyone does. So they have to work quite hard on outreach, and they do school visits and stuff. Anyway, they commission audio drama from me, and that involves them saying, right, we want to do something about India, the experience of Indian soldiers in the trenches during World War I, for example. Okay. And then I'll commission a writer who's got that in her heritage. And increasingly, I'm writing them myself. I most recently did one about the Irish War of Independence, 1920 to 21, which was really a brutal colonial war on our doorstep. And a particular illegal Sinn Féin publication called the Irish Bulletin, who were like a bunch of kids basically and a typewriter who were putting out lists of British government atrocities to journalists and MPs. It was a really fascinating and not very little known period of history. So audio drama can shed light on all of this stuff, and they just put it on their media player on the national, or they hold Zoom listening parties where you can join from anywhere in the world, and it's like a world premiere, like it's the first time we're uploading the audio and sharing it, and those are quite fun. So everyone puts on headphones and listens together. I do really like that whole aspect. It sort of took off during lockdown, as you can imagine. People got together to do sort of socially type things, and I borrowed the idea from a mate and collaborator of mine, Boz Temple Morris, who's a radio drama producer and director. He holds listening parties in person whenever he has something on the radio a few days before, a bit like a private viewing or whatever, or a press preview like you came to. We all like rent a cinema and just turn out all the lights and we listen rather than watch. And it's a really nice format. So I've done them live and I've done them online. I do quite a lot of that through Applied Stories. And most times where we're launching something for a new client, we'll have an online listening event, and sometimes in person as well. Because applying stories is sort of endless, I'm finding. You can, especially audio, which is the most portable form of stories, I think. I did a project for the British Museum last year called Eternal Telephone, where they had this case called 4 Lives, which looked sort of broadly at like migration and identity in the ancient world, like 600 BC and across the sort of Eastern Mediterranean. And it was basically like grave markers with like someone who had their name in 2 different languages, and they clearly migrated from one to the other. And so I assembled a writing team to kind of work with curators at the museum to find out more about these, real people. And then we came up with an idea of, like, rather than little plays, it was going to be a thing that you scan on the side of the case from a QR code, and then it just plays on your phone. And it needed to sound all right out of a speaker as well, because it's in a museum. You can't guarantee people who have headphones. Bring headphones to Museum Stories, please, everyone, by the way, while I remember. I had to give you some.
You had to sort me out, of course.
But anyway, Eternal Telephone ended up it mocked up a voicemail inbox, and they were little 90-second voicemail messages from 600 BC. And the idea was that the person was ringing you up from the past and leaving you a message about something really important that they have to tell you. So it was just a way of bringing those really long dead artifacts to life and kind of give them a voice. So I'm finding that stories can be applied anywhere, but particularly suit history, and there's a whole market in heritage and museums now for much more interactive experiences of this kind.
It's definitely moving in that way. I mean, one thing what I think would be interesting in the future as the technology develops is to apply this with AR technology.
Yeah.
If you could have augmented reality.
Do you know what? That does exist. There are some projects that are starting to do that, and I'm going to try and see them. A lot of people say that to me, and I thought about it a lot, and the reason that I'm not ruling out I might do it because I'm curious. I love tech and what it can do. But the big drawback I think to it is that it puts a screen between you and reality, a visual screen, and audio in your ears.
Imagination
is so much more intimate and personal, and I think that is a barrier, even if it's augmented. I remember talking to Kew Gardens once, who I really wanted to commission something, and they said, "Oh yeah, but we don't really want anything technological because it's like the plants are the attraction. We just want people to sort of be with the plants and not have their frigging phones out." And I can kind of get that. I tried to sell them the idea of audio, which is much less invasive in that way than AR whatever would be. But so yeah, good thought. But I think there's a purity to my art in this case, which it sort of would get in the way of a little bit.
I do agree because I mean, one of the best parts about your tour was that you can just sit down and you take it all in, but then the modern world is going by in front of you, which is really interesting because you're hearing something kind of alien to what's going on. I mean, one thing that I found quite interesting about it was the halal one.
Yeah.
The halal...
haggling for halal.
Haggling for halal, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And one bit that just really hit me hard was that it was £1.25 for 3 bits of chicken and chips.
Right. Back then. I know.
I just could... And I was walking past the chicken chip shop whilst I was listening to that bit, and I popped my head in.
How much was it?
And it was £6. I can't remember what it was now, but it's increased.
For a little box, I bet. Well, that was set in the 90s, that one.
Yeah.
So but it still is amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But it still feels fresh and real, doesn't it? Those kinds of experiences. Although I think St Albans does have halal chicken now.
Yeah.
The story was about a lad and his brother having to come in from St Albans to Bury Park because they can't get
brilliant. It's brilliant because it would have been that back then. And people, this is the thing. What I think your stories show as well is how very, very different the world was. I mean, me and my wife was talking recently about how, you know, there wasn't a McDonald's delivery service, and how we just are, you know, I remember being a kid and being like, why can't the McDonald's deliver? And do you know what I mean? And although, you know, it's just McDonald's, but it's kind of my children just don't have that understanding. The world was so different previously.
It was moving so fast, isn't it? You know, I mean, that's getting old, mate.
Oh, I don't. I hate it. I actually hate it. People always asking how old I am. I try to pretend. Like
you've got a good, disguise now, haven't you? Yeah. Do you know what? I want to talk a bit about what I hope will happen next with Museum of Stories. Is that all right?
Yes, please.
So, obviously, I want everyone to come to Eventbrite and experience it next week. And we had a lovely feature actually in Luton News today, which I hope will be in the paper edition. And I'll be talking to BBC and stuff. Anyway, it'll be. So after the live walks next week, it will stay online for anyone to do in their own time up until the end of this year. What we're also doing is we're keeping the phone line open. So in the app, there's a section called Get Involved. There's an evaluation form. You can tell us what you think, please do. But there's also a bit about how to submit your own story. And I'm keeping the phone line open, which is, you know, just pay line rental. It's like a 24-hour voicemail for anyone to leave any story about Bury Park, because I think once people start doing the walk and the word spreads, we're going to be aware of all the gaps. And I'm already aware of loads. Like, there's not really a football story. There's a scene that's set on a match day in the Opticians, but it's not really about football or the club. Or rather, there's a guy going to the kickoff, but it's not really about that. And we haven't got any Irish stories. I remember when I was chatting to this guy called David Crane at the Bury Park Community Centre, where we held a read-through. He's still got his strong Irish accent, and I was asking him about his stories once he found out what we were up to. And his memory was there was a McDonald's. It was a McDonald's. You mentioned it, made me think of it. A couple of doors down from the community centre, and he said when he first arrived from Ireland as a kid, it was the first McDonald's he'd ever seen or had. And I said to him, "Did you not have McDonald's in Ireland?" And he said, you'd be lucky to get any food at all.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that's true, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a whole communities unrepresented, which I want to address in the next version of this. But if people ring up the phone line and tell us brilliant material, that's the best donation anyone could make, because then I can take that as evidence to the Arts Council or other funders and say, look, there's a huge local demand, and now that the app is built, we can add to it and we can grow it and add, you know, more pins.
I have to say as well, just on the actual app and how it works, it is so intuitive.
Oh, good.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Really easy to use. Like you say, you just walk past where the geo pin is, and it starts playing, and it's beautiful. I mean, you could kind of almost just have it ready to go in your pocket and just walk along, and it just starts then, you know, you can have a little stop and a break. What I found quite fascinating as well is that there just so happens to be benches on every single stopping point.
Well, what we did, you see, it was very clever, was you can choose where to put the pin, Dimple, and you can put them next to a bench
this
for
technology
you.
Is fantastic technology.
It's like making an auditorium on the street,
yeah.
You know, and that's how I see it really. This is like an audio art gallery where the street is the gallery.
Yeah.
And we've even got a little welcome message by Jackie, the historian, who says that these people are the exhibits, and this street, their gallery, and that's really what it is. It's a new kind of museum, and I really mean that. You know, it's not just a metaphor. Why can't you have an audio museum?
No, I agree.
And I've been trying to sort of tap up like museum industry press to come along, who would, you know, normally go to buildings, and I mean none as yet, but they asked for the press release, so you know, we'll see.
We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I'm going to hope and pray for you.
Yeah.
I think you can do it. It's a wonderful idea, and I can't see why not. I mean, for me, after I've walked away from this, I was hungry for more. I was like, I would love to now walk through town and have a similar experience.
Well, you could do it anywhere. That's the thing.
This is what I mean. Like after that, I was like, if I knew that there was more locations outside of Berry Park, I would just carry on walking.
Wow.
Yeah, really.
I'm glad we stopped, because you would have got heat stroke or something. You'd have needed some water.
I don't know what's wrong with me. For some reason, in this suit, I do not feel the heat.
You said that before. It's crazy. It's just as bloody well. Maybe you are a superhero, because that's unnatural.
Maybe. I don't know. It's pretty hot at the moment. So. But no, I mean, like I say, I can't recommend it enough to people, and I'd really like it if people could get in touch and give more stories to you, because I think that there is this part of Luton is one that people aren't aware of. We're judged so broadly, you know. They just cover us with an entire blanket and say it's all the same thing under there.
Yeah. Right.
And the truth is there's just such a wonderful history here. And I mean, you go by the decade, Luton is different every decade. I was actually talking to someone recently about how we have sort of manufactured ourselves to suit the times across time, whether it's with Vauxhall or with hat making or with Electrolux or with football, whatever it is. We just, you know, the airport, we mould the town to fit what's going on. Unfortunately, because of that, we end up destroying a lot of stuff in the process. Like,
but you got bombed as well. Don't forget. You know, I think it's a bit like Coventry. There was quite a bit of damage.
Yeah.
And awful rebuilding in the 50s and 60s. You know, when they just threw up any old shit.
Yeah, it's true. True.
And a lot of British towns have got that curse. So you're not alone. You know, but it's the people that make a place, isn't it? These places are always full of like great personalities, in my experience. Yeah,
I mean, like, you couldn't get it from any area in Luton, but I really want to see more of it. So, whatever you've got coming, I'll be more than happy to promote.
Amazing, thank you.
And I really look forward to seeing more and more of it.
Cool. Well, watch this space.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is there anything more that you want to add to this to sort of promote this, or yourself?
No, just museumstories.co.uk. Plug for the website, which you might see these around town. There's posters as well. There's QR codes on the back. I've got a QR code on a t-shirt.
Yeah, so if you see Finn, you can
just snap in, go. Yeah, you don't even have to talk to me. But no, I'll have hopefully we've got t-shirts on our live hosts next week. So I've got some of the community cast to come in, and they're doing shifts for me to like front of house basically for these Eventbrite walks at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock every day next week. So look out for those t-shirts. Download the app in advance.
So what's the app called? It's Museum.
So it's Museum of Stories. Yeah, just
again, as you can see, there you go, Museum of Stories right
Berry
there.
Park is even in the name, so it's easy to find. If you can't find it, go to museumofstories.co.uk, and I've linked to the App Store in both Google Play and Apple from the main landing page.
Yeah.
And
don't forget headphones. Don't forget
headphones, and not Bluetooth either. They lag and it's not good.
It's got to be a direct connection, so you get an adapter
with the past.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing, is that I've got a few spares, but like they're mini jacks, so whatever. I've actually was online the other day going, where's the nearest place I can send people to buy them? There's an Argos in the Sainsbury's, helpfully, people can go and buy.
There you go. There's no need to worry. You can just
stop by and there you go. Come prepared.
Awesome.
So and come and enjoy it, and tweet and tell us about it. Like, talk about it on social media. We've got zero marketing budget. It's all been done. We're very grateful to Arts Council England, but there's a limit to all of this. And we've delivered a lot for within a modest amount. So we've got very little marketing for marketing, and so we're really relying on word of mouth. So tell your friends. And
I'll leave a little thing at the end of this to show all of your social medias,
cool,
the website, all of that stuff, so people can find it nice and easy. I'll put it in the description. So if you listen to this now and you want to find them, just look in the description, or you'll see it popping up somewhere. I don't know where I'm going to put it, probably here. It will just say where you can go to find Finn, to find Museum Stories, find Applied Stories, any of the other people, and just support him as much as you can. I mean,
Thank you.
This is what I personally like to do. I like to big up people like Finn, who are doing such a good job to spread positivity in our community. So do me a favour and do the same. Show him some love, follow him, get to know him, and get to know his projects, what he's doing, because honestly, this guy's inspiration to us all, and we should all take a little bit out of
bless you,
this.
mate. Well, thanks for your support. It's really appreciated.
No problem, Finn. Thank you for joining me today.
Alrighty,
All right.
good. See you next time. See ya.
Bye.